salmon pens are seen on the water.
Well, welcome to Huon Aquaculture. My name's David White. I'm the Group Technical Manager here at our operations base here at Hideaway Bay. I've been working here for around 10 years.
Rugged coastline panning to see salmon farm.
Well, we farm fish to feed the growing world population. In 2012, we had 7 billion people in the world. We then look at that and say that of that proportion, 1.2 billion have seafood as a primary source of protein. And that equates to 17.2 kilos per person. That's the amount of seafood that we need on an annual basis. So this is the life cycle of a salmon. The eggs are incubated. After a certain amount of degree days, which is around 250 days, the eggs will hatch out. They're alevins, they have their own yolk sac. They then transfer to seawater for the seawater part of their life cycle. So up until now, they're in fresh water, then they go to seawater. They'll grow up for a couple of years with us. They will then be stripped, so they'll have the eggs and the sperm taken from them, and then that will fertilize the egg, which then goes through this process again. So we talk about closing the cycle in aquaculture, which means we can take eggs, grow them all the way around to parent fish, and then get another generation. So that's called vertical integration. When you can go from eggs all the way back round, means that you're vertically integrated. It also is a term we use for explaining that we go all the way from egg to plate in aquaculture. We have a world fish supply which is constrained around 117 to 120 million tons. 45% at that point, which is 2012, was supplied by aquaculture. Now it's closer to 50%. So we've got to the point where we're farming more than we're catching. So 100 kilos of feed produces 13 kilos of pork, 20 kilos of chicken, but a whopping 65 kilos of salmon. How does that compare in terms of efficiency? You can only retain 47% of a sheep after you kill it, 72% of a pig, 66% of a chicken, and 86% of a fish. So once again, our salmon are looking pretty good. It takes 7 kilos of wild fish to grow a 5 kilo salmon out there on the farm. How many kilos do you think it takes for a wild salmon to grow to 5 kilos in weight? The answer is 50. So wild salmon are a lot less sustainable in terms of the use of marine resources than farm salmon are. Each 4 kilos of wild fish becomes 1 kilo of fish meal. Each kilo of fish meal, we need 210 grams of it, or we needed 210 grams of it to make our kilo of fish feed. So of the fish feed, we need 1.4 kilos to make a kilo of salmon. So that's how we get up to our numbers.
Okay, so over my shoulder are our research and development pens. Huon are pretty unique in that we have 34 small pens, which are exact copies of full-scale production pens. They have the nets, they have the flotation collars, and they also have the center-mounted feeders. So in those pens, we can run a small number of fish, between 200 and 500. We can do lots of trials on things like different feed ingredients, different feed energy levels, different photo periods, so how long the day length is that the fish are experiencing. We've even done vaccine trials, and we've done all sorts of other things too. So it allows us to try some pretty new things in a very, very controlled environment with good scientific replication without putting full production pens under that kind of stress. So it's the key to our success here is being able to try things before we do them.
First thing you have to do as a fish farmer is you have to keep your fish alive. The second thing you have to do as a fish farmer is keep them in one place.
Behind me is one of our production pens. It's a 168 metre pen. That's the circumference of the pen. That's how we measure our pens and how we categorise them. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at this pen. We're going to see what the challenges are that we've tried to solve with this design. And then we're going to try and give you a little bit of insight into the important things for us so that if you were redesigning one of these pens, what you might have to take into consideration. The pen's made up of 3 main components. First component is the flotation collar, and that's what keeps the whole rig on the surface. Then we have the net, which contains the fish and also protects the fish from external predators. Then we have the bird net, which goes over the top of the net, which again protects the fish from birds. And out in the middle is a floating hopper. That floating hopper is computer controlled, and it basically feeds the fish when they want to be fed. So it's an integral part of the pen. It holds up the bird net, but it also carries the feed that we need to feed the fish. Predators are trying to eat fish. They're trying to interrupt the fish's normal behaviours in order to eat them. The challenge for us 2 years ago was to have very tight, high fences that the seals couldn't jump over. But despite our best efforts, seals would pull the net down. They'd try and get up the inside of the net. They'll target any weakness
They'll learn very quickly from each other. So very, very inventive and very, very persistent animals.
So this is state of the art, or was state of the art probably around 4 years ago. But it's clear that improvements have to be made. So one of the things that we'd like you guys to think about is how would you make those improvements? How would you keep the fish as far away from the seals as you possibly could? How would you prevent them from climbing over? And how would you make the whole thing a safer working environment for people who work here? So that's the challenge, and it's the challenge we face every day.